I woke up this morning, right? And to cut you a long story short, when I was opening Bitcoin's chart and checking Twitter, I didn't really know what the fuss was about. Bitcoin fell down 11%. And then I opened my portfolio and I was horrified at the sight to see what I was worth yesterday to what I was worth today slashed by a significant amount. And I'm guessing a lot of you guys had that same situation happen. And so I wanted to make a video today, building off last night's video, talking about whether or not I actually see this point in the cycle worth holding, or if it's worth us just cutting some of our losses, particularly maybe even a portion of our portfolio. So before we get into it, guys, as always, don't forget, if you find yourself enjoying this video, if it helps you in any sort of way, hit that like button and subscribe. First of all, I put a poll out here today asking where you're currently sitting. And surprisingly, in a good way, most people said that they're buying the blood and the fear. Now, make no mistake, like I said last night, guys, when we see days like this and these prices move down, they've sort of bounced back a little bit here, but believe you me, these 10, 20, 30 or 40% drops in some of these altcoins already towards their lows. So we're falling now down back to prices we saw late 2023. It's a little hard to believe. It's a little hard to want to buy that. But again, as we know, literally, as Warren Buffett even said, you got to buy when others are fearful and sell when others are greedy. And this, I think, will prove to be one of the good buying opportunities. This is back in COVID, all right, a few years back. And you can see the 7-day over here for a lot of these altcoins. They were down pretty much the same amount, if not more. A lot of people are comparing this to COVID because this actually had more liquidations than COVID. It actually had more liquidations than the end of the previous cycle, which was Luna and also FTX. Like Coin Bureau says here, we've just witnessed history. But again, I want to remind you all before we get into the facts here and what I see coming up over the next 12 months and beyond, because there is a lot of stuff to say in this video. Guys, this is a A-class tactic that these whales like to use. And don't get me wrong, some of you guys are thinking, yeah, the whales fabricated the tariffs. No. Like, don't get it twisted, right? What the whales do is the whales use some of this macro news and they combine that with an already exhausted market, particularly when the market right now is full of beginners that have been in this market less than even 6 months. And this causes mega capitulation. The whales essentially have been holding the market back. They kick the initial little snowball down the mountain. And with the macro news that builds and builds and builds, prices, of course, come falling down until you get to a point where retail goes, I got to get out. This is too much. You wake up in a cold sweat, you check your portfolio, you're not thinking, you're not even awake, and you sell everything. This causes further capitulation, and that snowball builds and builds and builds. It doesn't help, of course, that influencers get involved as well. And we make videos scaring everyone, saying, we're out of the market, Like, you won't find that from me. I'll genuinely tell you my opinion on the situation. And if it's still positive, I'll tell you I'm still positive. But a lot of people don't do that. So be very careful. So what happens? Well, you end up selling in times like this when you're extremely fearful. This is COVID from the last cycle. And, we haven't fallen down this far in Bitcoin's price, but it's a barometer for altcoins because altcoins definitely have taken the biggest hit of all here. So you're completely feared and you sell. What happens? The market consolidates or recovers and it ends up coming back higher than where we were even earlier on, maybe a 2x higher. What happens is you see people that bought the lows and bought down here up 2, 3, 4x, or the guys holding up the same amount. And so then you go, okay, well now I've got FOMO. Now I'm missing out. So what do you say? I'm going to buy back in. You actually pretty much have this play out, right? The optimism comes back, belief is fully instilled, and you're now thinking it's time to get fully invested. So you do. The problem is, though, at a 10x for you, which may be the top of the market, which obviously isn't going to help you because you don't want to be selling at the very top. That's dangerous. Well, you're over here thinking, okay, as the price is going up, you're all happy and excited, fantastic. But guys, I and others holding this whole time, or those of us who bought the dip even, well, we're up already at 10x, way down here. We're up at 10x, 2 or 3x lower than where you're even thinking about maybe trying to sell, okay? And this is the whole point. If you work with the market, if your emotions go with the flow in terms of when it's fearful, you're fearful, and when it's greedy, you're greedy, that is why you are likely going to be part of the 95% statistic where you're going to lose money. You've got to go against the grain and make money in these sort of times. Okay, like Scott here, a very valid question, by the way. Shout out to you, Scott. Great question. He says, I can't sell at this point and realize any losses. Hard to realign my goals and expectations. My hope is now to at least get back to break even and I'll be happy. And I said, be careful. Because what it sounds like to me, and again, I'm using Scott as an example here because I think a lot of people are in this position right now. The idea is that your break even comes with an abundance of good news. So again, you're in that belief phase and you are once again happy and choose to stay in, expecting extreme highs. Because again, you're a sort of emotional investor. If this is how you feel on the lows, the big boys know you'll be greedy on the highs. Just remember, if you decide to stay in the market after break even, get out and don't be emotional. To make money from you, they have to make you emotional. It's as simple as that. Look on chain. It does not lie. Retail is in this sort of bluish color. That's me and you. Large investors are in this sort of purplish, pinkish line, and the price of Bitcoin is in this black line. And what does this all show us? Well, right now, retail in this purplish line, they are massively selling off here. What does that tell you? Again, that is going with the grain. That is essentially the sentiment. Well, this is the complete opposite forming. And large investors, these guys are buying a crap load right now. They've never been buying more, okay? Literally. From the lows over here around mid last year, they've just been constantly buying while we are constantly selling. If you just simply look at the purple line, us, and go, that actually aligns up. When this thing goes up, we're all bullish. When this thing goes sideways or down, we're pretty bearish. It begins to make sense. And then if you look at the pink line and then go, okay, these guys are buying or selling at that same time, usually the opposite comes up in the immediate to short term. There's always an additional narrative that's bubbling beneath the surface, and retail never tends to pick up on it. It is a completely different sign when you see the large investors begin selling off, like the top over here in 2017, which I believe will happen again this cycle. You can see them selling off while retail was buying when they were selling. So please, guys, take note of this. It's manipulation 101, and they love to factor in macro news, like I brought you many, many videos ago with showing you the next 12 months here based on the last 3 bull green zone periods. There's ups and downs, and they are always manipulated higher or lower depending on the macro news at the time. So moving on, Marty Party says, full capitulation brought to you by Binance. What does he mean by this? Well, Binance has been sending copious amounts of different assets, mainly Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, to Wintermute, the biggest market maker in crypto, to keep prices low. This is all on chain. You can see even Coinbase has been doing it, so it's quite bad. So in his opinion, this capitulation event was triggered on the weekend because there is a huge bullish news on crypto coming this week. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not. There's supposedly talks about Trump executive order to add Bitcoin, finally coming here in the next few days. I mean, who knows? Okay, who actually knows? But either way, I think this could get a little bit worse because we're talking about, supply chains and massive economies here. We're talking about nation states fighting at this point. So I don't necessarily know when this will actually stop, but I'm confident it eventually will stop. And those buying the lows, non-financial advice, of course, will obviously reap the most rewards. In the last 24 hours, $2.2 billion was liquidated. It made a lot of sense. Actually, if we have a look at Bitcoin's chart here, there was a lot of longs leveraged, and we did come down here to wipe most of them out. We can see there's one point that I don't think we quite reached, which was 90,700. So it wouldn't surprise me if we wick down beneath this, attack it one more time before coming up. This is, of course, Bitcoin. Ethereum wiped out a lot of the longs you can see down here as well. So again, a lot of these centralized exchanges, in addition to wanting to make the most money for themselves and the guys they're working with and cahoots with, they don't want to pay out all the longers. They try to manipulate the market with these market makers to bring the prices down, liquidate all the longs, and then they come up. If we have a look at how Bitcoin's been tracking, guys, like I said to you in the last cycle was completely brought on with overstimulation from COVID, okay? COVID hit in this green line here, and of course, money printing began, lockdowns happened, no one could spend money physically, everyone was speculating on digital assets, okay? It pushed us up early. The reason I'm so confident in this is because we still topped out at the exact same top in time we would typically in a normal cycle. So I do believe even with that extreme stimulation in the market, we still came down and we still tried once again to reach out. I don't think if we had COVID, we would have had this first initial pump. I do believe it would have come up steadily over time and kind of matched the 2018 cycle in blue here, and likely what we're going to expect in this cycle. As a matter of fact, if I remove that, you can see how similar we are to the 2018 cycle, in which, guys, we are tracking just fine. As a matter of fact, right now, you can see the blue line here. We actually went down and had a bit of a deeper dip. February 9th, almost to the exact day. This is Altcoins market cap. We fell down 22.22%. Again, almost to the exact day now. We've, of course, fallen down a bit higher than this now. We wicked down at least higher, but right now we're about 22, 23%. So again, like sometimes things work out quite similar. I'm not saying this was obviously predictable because obviously anything can happen and the size of these dips and the pumps do depend on macro news as well. That's why no two cycles are ever the exact same. But these things happen. It's just the same as we've had before. Hell, a global pandemic we haven't seen in 100 years came in the last cycle, and what came out of it was the exact same thing we saw the 2 previous cycles. So I guess I'll believe it when I see it. But until now, I'm going off the charts, and the charts tell me it's only going to get better. I mean, Bitcoin in the last few days, not even today, it's only fallen down 6%, but the last few days, it's been 15%. It's 9 days. That is completely normal in a market like this. We've had bigger dips in the recent past, okay? So if you have a look at the CBBI indicator here, this aggregates a whole bunch of very reliable and accurate indicators. I mean, guys, even in the last cycle, you can see that massive run-up from the overstimulation. This signaled the top. And yet still over here, when the actual top happened, it still was the actual official all-time high, even though indicators, they all in accumulation said, hey, we're not going to have an all-time high here, and we still did. So to me, that just, I think, pushes that sort of argument even further. I mean, why do we have the same tops every 4 years? I think a lot of people are submitting to the fact that this is likely global liquidity, and global liquidity back then at COVID hit lows, and then over that next, let's just say 12 to 18 months, this rose to highs. This rose to 2.2 on the index score. Huge. You can see a massive growth here, right? This massive growth. This was the bull run, basically. You can see here we topped out in October, November 2021. Now, we came back down to these lows after this particular event here with the US banking crisis, FTX, and the whole sort of thing that happened back then. And now we've been inching up. We're at highs we haven't seen until back in the 2000s, the dot-com boom. That's why I'm telling you guys, this cycle to me feels like it's going to be the dot-com boom, where we're going to have a massive blow off top, we're going to eventually have a massive crash, and that's going to cull these pump.fund, these crap coins, and regulation is going to come out of it like it did back then. True, genuine coins will come out of this bull run that actually changed the world. Hedera, maybe XRP, XLM, Ondo, Render, and the rest of them. And I think even this crash is possibly a good thing because what this crash is doing is sucking liquidity out of every single coin. Okay, and what is that doing? That's killing off the small coins because these coins are pretty well next to zero now. We've all been wanting this. We've all been wanting these coins to go bye-bye. This might be what we're looking for here. Once the money is out of these coins and people have given up hope on them and they said, I've lost so much money on them because they've fallen down more than even the large caps, and we know the large caps have fallen down quite significantly, they're going to go, I just want safer returns. And so they might throw their money back into the top 1,000 altcoins, which I think most of my viewers are pretty much in anyway. So this could be a very good thing, and I think maybe a small event, a microcosm from what might come here, similar again to what came from the dot-com boom. There's the conversation as well about the decoupling of Bitcoin and crypto market caps, okay, where Bitcoin is in gold here, and normally alts follow Bitcoin to a kind of similar degree, and right now we've been just going sideways, and this is worrying a lot of people, but what a lot of people aren't remembering is that this happens every single time, every single cycle. We go back to the cycle I think we'll follow here, which is back in 2017. The drawdowns here show you just how big we can have these in Bitcoin. But this red line you see below, just here, okay, this red line is the altcoin market caps. And you can see here just how flat line these can get while Bitcoin is charging up. Okay, again, Bitcoin moves sideways. Maybe we go down with Bitcoin. Bitcoin starts charging up and we just move sideways. It's disbelief 101 in my opinion. It is literally this phase right here. It is disbelief. Okay, and I think most of you guys that are selling down here will come back in optimism and especially in belief where you want your 10x's still, but all the market's going to give you is a 3x, but you don't know that. And I don't care because I'm selling over here. I'm selling in belief or thrill. Simple as that, okay? Someone's got to be exit liquidity, and the market makers know this. These guys are making multi-billions. How the hell do you think that money comes about? You think that money comes about from a tooth fairy that comes in and says, here's all the kids' money from the tooth fairy this last 12 months, market makers and Coinbase and Binance, here you go. That money comes from you. You don't have to believe me. If you don't believe me and you still want to get out, I don't care. You can get out. And I'm sort of like, I'm not agitated, I'm passionate because I'm not here trying to convince you to stay in the market, guys. I'm not here trying to do that at all because there's bigger players in this game that will pump the market regardless of whatever you and I do. I'm saying this because I've seen this so much in the charts. I just want you to understand if you want to get out, do that. But please be very careful if you ever decide to come back in again. Remember this video. Remember what I'm telling you right now. Back here in the last cycle, this was in the blue zone, so not quite in the green zone where we are right now. But you can see Bitcoin going up astonishing amounts, and alts just trailed sideways. It's that disbelief stage again. When alts start moving up, that's when people get belief back into altcoins again, and you'll see this black line here for altcoins re-decouple or undecouple, maybe the right word is to use there, and then it'll go back up and follow Bitcoin. So market dominance needs to do its thing. Bitcoin has spiked up again to quite high numbers here. It actually hit the top of the range that we had eyed off here for quite some time. I'm not going to say I called it because I didn't, but we were eyeing off the 64.5% number here for a while. We come down here and we see that the alts have fallen substantially. I mean, you just see the dominance here just absolutely fall through the roof. And let's not forget that historically speaking, when we do eventually have an alt season, it is begun by Ethereum gaining dominance. Bitcoin has to start losing dominance. We typically see Ethereum gaining dominance, and then it's usually within a week or two after that, then altcoins begin to move up because that money has flown into the largest altcoin, giving a lot of the large caps, mid caps, and therefore small caps that confidence to eventually begin having money flow back into it. You kind of have to have a North Star, and Ethereum historically is that North Star when it comes to the beginning of alt season. And you can see on this chart right here that we're actually separating like this. We're actually widening the gap, which I actually think might eventually cause a sudden snap, ideally, where Bitcoin comes down and we have a much larger pump here immediately for Ethereum, which would be ideal because unfortunately, I just don't think that Bitcoin's dominance falls beneath around 45 to maybe even 50% dominance in this bull run. What does that mean? Well, in history, it's fallen to about 40%. So of course, the higher Bitcoin's dominance goes and the longer it stays there, the more it attracts new money into the space. And therefore, just like they say, the bigger it is, the harder it falls. That means more money for altcoins. So like I said, macro news is perfectly timed here with an exhausted market, particularly a beginner exhausted market causing mega capitulation. Mega capitulation essentially is mega good entry for whales. All right, it's a free-for-all at the moment because Trump gave the big boys the pass with his meme coin launch, in my opinion. Trump pretty much launching, Trump and Melania. He said to these guys, hey, I'm going to ease up on crypto and all this sort of stuff in my 4-year term, have fun with it. That's how I honestly do feel. Yes, there's going to be great things that come from it, like we're seeing now with regulation and all the rest of it, loosening, and then eventually it'll tighten in the right areas. But I think as it stands right now, this is every man for himself. They are free to heavily manipulate and let the institutions get their hands on crypto very cheap. Okay, so the guys already manipulating the market have got the free pass, the get out of jail free card, and I believe that this means that they're going to let the big institutions in. If you're Larry Fink, you're one of these big boys behind BlackRock, and you know what they're doing behind the scenes, and you have not friends, not family, but a massive connection of people at a similar, wealth level to yourself, you're not just going to not talk about it. You're going to say, hey guys, we got big plans for crypto. We know what Trump's doing with crypto. This is all loose now. We're going to tank the market, buy. I mean, it makes sense to me. Okay. But again, you don't have to believe it. I'm just here to put in the facts, what's in front of me. And I could be wrong, I could be right, but that's up to you to be able to absorb and think it through. There's going to be a lot of people down below that are very angry and upset, and they hate this. And unfortunately, I do too, okay? But this is exactly what needs to happen, for the market to go 10x, 15x, 20x. Otherwise, no one's going to be buying the tops. We've all been buying the bottoms, and we're all just sitting back, relaxing, waiting for us to make generational wealth. Never is going to be that easy. Never. Thanks for watching, guys. I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Stay strong. I'm with you. If you want more of my own insights as well, I'll leave links down below to my community page. Come join, have a chat. Stay strong.